Hello and welcome to Case Study 3, HDFC Bank. My name is Matt and I'm a member of Group 4. In our group is myself, Asla, Nadia, and Suraj. First off, let's start with the important facts. HDFC was a bank that was established in 1995 and they started to offer their online banking services in 2001. This bank is a new generation private sector bank. They have really embraced being everywhere and offering all kinds of services to their customers. They have 24/7 service. They have self-service by using ATMs, phone banking, internet banking, and mobile banking. Because of their presence online, their security is a fundamental concern to them. Of the 1.28 million customers of HDFC Bank, about 28% would have been vulnerable to massive phishing attacks as of August 2007. A few more important facts. In 2004, the RBI mandate for banks requires them to route all high-value payments through the real-time gross settlement system. The Chief Information Security Officer was planning to introduce a second level of authentication for all the online users, known as Secure Access. 20% of the customers of this bank were dormant users, and what we mean by that is they're users who have an online account but they don't actually use it. HDFC was already in talks with RSA Security, which is an American company, and they're wanting to use them as a vendor for all their off-site data centers. Alright, now let's look at the key issues that we found from the document. First off, how can HDFC justify the cost of security and the amount of security with customer convenience? Secondly, which users should they offer secure access to? Thirdly, how should their authentication and online servers be located, either on-site or off-site? And also, how can HDCF ensure that its customers' perception of their online banking experience remains positive? Key issue number 1. How can HDFC justify the cost of security and the amount of security with customer convenience? We came up with 3 ways they can do this. They can authenticate the account holder identity, authenticate the transaction, or use both. First off, authenticate the account holder identity. The pro is that if the user made a legitimate and unusual transaction, it would not get rejected like it would with the transaction authentication. We came up with several cons. First off, the account holder could easily pick a weak password, and then that would easily be cracked or gotten through phishing attacks. Also, the customer has to provide authentication for every transaction, and this would be inconvenient if the customer wanted to make multiple transactions in just one session. Another alternative is to authenticate each individual transaction. The pros are that having each transaction authenticated increases the chances of fraudulent transactions being stopped. Also, the banks can notify if the account about the suspicious transactions. The problem is that when authenticating transactions, you might have a false positive, and that's where the system thinks it's a bad transaction, but it's actually not. And there's also several other cons. Our recommended course of action is to use both. To both authenticate the account holder identity and to authenticate the transaction. Key issue number 2. Which users should HDFC offer secure access to? They can either A, limit the secure access to only active users and immediately disable the dormant ones, or B, offer secure access to dormant users and active users. First alternative, limit secure access to only active users and immediately disable the dormant ones. The pros are it removes the risk of dormant users being hacked, and that active users are the majority of the ones that even use their system anyway. The cons have to do with it can be an inconvenience to the customers, and they may get mad that their accounts are disabled. Say somebody doesn't usually go on there, and they're flagged as dormant, then they decide to go on the day after they get disabled, and they might get mad about it. Alright, the other alternative is to offer secure access to dormant users and active users. The pros are that the active users' online accounts can be immediately secured from the phishing attacks, and that the bank employees would not waste much effort re-evaluating and reactivating online accounts that had been immediately suspended. The cons is that it would take a lot of effort to notify these dormant users. You'd have to email them, you'd have to text them, you'd have to notify them whenever they came into a bank that, hey, we're about to disable your account and you go do something about it. And then also these dormant users would still be vulnerable to all these attacks while we waited to see if we should deactivate their account or not. Our recommended course of action is to offer secure access to dormant users and active users. This way we're able to have more security for the active users because that'll take effect right away, and then eventually we would disable those dormant accounts, but we would give them a certain amount of time, like say a month, to say, hey, come and secure your online account. Alright, and the last key issue we're going to talk about today is, should HDFC's authentication and online servers be located on-site or off-site? Alternatives is that we can keep the servers at HDCF's own data centers in India, we can move the servers off-site to RSA, or we can have HDFC host the online servers and a third party host the authentication servers. First alternative, keep the server at HDFC's own data centers in India. The pros is that this carries a low rate of systematic failure and it allows us to integrate it into our own local area networks. Also, we're able to keep all this data at our house and that doesn't actually have to go anywhere else. The problem is that it would take an additional 6 months for us to do this ourselves instead of using the cloud model offered by RSA. Also, there is a high cost of installation and running the servers and getting employees to run that department. Second alternative, move the servers off-site to RSA. The nice thing about this is that we're able to use this cloud model, and in the cloud model we don't have to worry about any of our servers failing. It just has infinite resources, so they're able to scale this model out as much as they need to in order to make it work for us. And also we're able to write this off as a revenue expenditure. The problem is that we are giving another company our data when we run our servers with them. It leads to a lot of security issues. Another problem is that the internet access is mandatory and this relies on a really fast internet connection to make this work. The last one is to have the HDFC host the online servers and a third party host the authentication servers. The nice thing about this is that important information and long-term data can be maintained by a third party and temporary files can be hosted by us. And it's also an easy way to maintain the servers with a third party, and it doesn't require us to really do anything. The problem is that the maintenance of the servers on-site and paying for it off-site may be more costly, and then there of course is that network latency issue. Our recommended course of action is to have HDFC host the online server and a third party host the authentication servers. This allows us to get the best of both worlds. We're able to keep some of the stuff at our house, and then also we can leverage that cloud model, the flexibility of that cloud model offered by RSA. This would be one of those business integrations talked about in the book. Alright, and that is the end of our presentation. Thanks so much for watching.